was to draft a declaration of intent. And we started this part of the conference by giving them a presentation about development and different themes in development that they could focus on, and having them select 5 different themes for the discussions over the next 2 days that they really wanted to focus on in terms of their importance to Iraq. And they chose education, infrastructure, civil society, reconciliation, which included issues with refugees and Kurd-Arab tensions, etc., and security. So what they did is we broke them up into small groups, had a facilitated discussion with them where it was, for the first part, it was most of the Iraqi students offering what exactly was happening on the ground, what things looked like from their situation, what needed to be changed, and then together the American and Iraqi students would come up with solutions or things that they thought should happen or needed to happen in order for the situation to be improved. In the end, we drafted this declaration of intent and we read through all the points and had them unanimously agree that yes, this is what they wanted to say, yes, this is what we all stand for, and that led to the final product.
Just for an example, some of the points that were brought up, for instance, under education were matters such as that they needed to eradicate corruption within the Iraqi school system, or that Iraqis needed more access to computers and the internet, or that they needed generators in order to provide electricity for their schools so that they could function. So they were really points that you could easily unanimously agree upon that this is something where the Americans and the Iraqis could work together to improve the situation. One thing, though, that was a little bit surprising to a lot of the American participants at first was that the primary tension that emerged during the conference was between the Kurdish participants and the Arab Iraqi participants. It was, a lot of the Americans came in thinking that there would be a big contrast between the Shia and the Sunni participants, but the discussions that took place really brought out this distinction between the two groups in Iraq, the Kurds and the Arabs, which was an issue that was hard to overcome because of the nature of the opinions that the Kurdish students and the Arab Iraqis had. And it was a point that the participants also addressed in their declaration of intent and plan to address as well following the conference by setting up a web forum to encourage Arab Iraqi and Kurdish Iraqi dialogue.
After the strenuous work that they put in to come up with the declaration of intent, we had a little break the next morning where we had them split into 3 groups and learn different cultural dances. So these are just some examples of the kind of things that they were comfortable doing around each other after 8 days of being at the conference. The third phase of the conference was having the students draft their own development projects.
We really wanted the participants to take their experience from this conference and spread the word about what they have learned, but also work together to improve the educational opportunities that the Iraqi participants in particular have. So the different initiatives that the Iraqi and American participants came up with all focused around education, and they developed these in order to work together in the future and provide support primarily for the Iraqi participant schools. So these initiatives include going back to their local communities and sharing about their experience to church groups or school groups or to even just their friends. But they also include continuing discussions between larger groups of Americans and Iraqis at the different high schools represented at this conference, and trying to provide support for the Iraqi schools, specifically with computers and textbooks, so that the Iraqis would have more opportunities with education.
After the students had come up with their own development projects in their groups, we gave them feedback about their proposals as well, so they could go through kind of a drafting process and really think about what needed to happen. After that, we had our closing ceremony, and we had two of the students, one American student, one Iraqi student, write about their experience and give a speech. So that's what you see here is one of the Iraqi students from Mustafa from Basra talking about what he gained from the conference, which was really a moving speech, and just two students who were at the closing ceremony as well.
And finally, following up on the conference, the students are continuing to work on the initiatives that they developed while there. And we have additional groups of students within the United World College movement are now mimicking this conference and launching conferences of their own between Chinese and Japanese students to work on Sino-Japanese relations. That's one project that's going to happen, and then another is an Afghani NATO conference, which we will be working with as well. The other program that we're now starting following this, and to extend on this, is the Campus Connection program, which will link American universities with Iraqi secondary schools so that groups of students at each can continue to build dialogue between one another, and it's our hope that the American schools will also provide scholarships for an Iraqi student to come study at their institution, and for Iraqi school administrators and teachers to come over to the United States and learn from the American institutions so that they can work on their educational systems in Iraq.
On a sort of smaller scale, it's also interesting to note that all of the, with what we were talking about before with the social networking sites, immediately after the conference, all of the Iraqi students got Facebook, which is really exciting because it's really nice to see that they've all been able to kind of keep in touch, and that it wasn't just kind of a one-time thing, that it's really continued and that they've had dialogue, and really these friendships are something concrete and stable that they're going to continue to foster. In closing, we'd just like to, none of the pictures showed up. We'd just like to thank all of our partners and sponsors, Bridges of Understanding in particular, Princeton University and the Woodrow Wilson School, among others, King's Academy, United World Colleges, Royal Dreaming, and the MBIL Jobber Foundation. Thank you very much for having us.